Welcome everyone. Everyone here in this room and those watching online at home. We're being webcasted, so everyone seated must use their microphones to be heard. There are no scheduled fire alarms, so if one goes off, it's for real. 2 exits in this room, through the double doors over there, and another behind me to the right. Introductions are as follows. I am Councillor Stephen Watson, the Chair. Next to me is Councillor Joe Thomas, Vice Chair. Further to the left is Neil Button, the Interim Team Leader for Strategic Applications. We have Daniel Clark, Planning Officer. Rachel Collard, Team Leader Development Management. To my right, Rachel Lee, Legal Advisor. Peter Mannings, the Committee Support Officer, and over there is Martin Plummer, Assistant Director, Place Delivery. And we also have Joanna Russell, Principal Planning Officer, and somewhere Stephanie Tarrant, Assistant Director for Democracy, Elections and Information Governance. I would also like to introduce the Council's Executive Member for Planning and Growth, Councillor Vicky Glover-Ward, who won't be taking an active part in this meeting, but is here in an observing capacity. Now, item number 1 is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, there are 3 from Councillor Sarah Copley, and Councillor Martin Adams is substituting for her, and also from Councillor Terry Smith and Councillor Simon Marlow. I've not heard from Councillors Estock and Hill, so I don't know if they're coming or not, but if they turn up late and they've missed part of the planning officer's talk, then they probably wouldn't be able to vote unless there's a chance to recap, but we'll see how that goes.
Right, so Chairman's announcements. Just to remind you to use your microphones. And do we have any declarations of interest? Nope. Right. We have before us an item number 4, the minutes from the meeting held on 11th of February 2026. Are there any amendments? Nope. Well then, does anyone want to propose the minutes? Councillor Devonshire and the seconder, Councillor Buckmaster. All right, all those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? And any abstentions? Thank you. Those minutes have been agreed. Right, item 5A. We have before us an application 3/0950/FUL, installation of 480 photovoltaic solar panels with an output of circa 24,000 kilowatt hours of energy, with supporting infrastructure and landscaping works at land at Aston End, Stevenage, Hertfordshire. Welcome, Councillor Estock, you're just in time. All right, I would like to invite, we're looking at 5A, the solar panels. I'd like to invite Joanna Russell to present the application.
Thank you. Before I present the application, there's a couple of comments on the late reps sheet before members. A subsequent representation from the lead local flood authority has been received, and as a result of that, condition 10 on the officer's report has been revised and condition 11 has been removed, and the subsequent conditions have been renumbered. There were also a couple of approved documents that have been added to the approved documents section at the end. Okay, so the application site is part of the applicant's wider agricultural holding. So apologies, this map isn't entirely clear, but the red line of the application site is here on this plan, and the area for the PV panels is shown in green there. The agricultural holding of the applicant, you can just about see in this large blue line around here, comes off the site. And actually it's clearer here, the red area is the applicant's land holding, and that star shows the approximate location of the PV panels. There's a quite convoluted access arrangement to the panels for the purposes of construction, with deliveries happening here, where you can see down here. And the reason it is as shown is because it makes use of the existing agricultural tracks, which run like that, and like that, and like that to the sites. And the reason for that is because it means there'll be no disruption to the land. It makes use of the tracks that the agricultural vehicles already use around the agricultural holding. The PV panels will be connected directly into the national grid. There are overhead power lines which run through the site. I think that's the line there that shows them. So the PV panels can be plugged into the national grid here, but the electricity will also be used by the applicant for his land use activities, including winemaking, and will also help to offset some of the carbon emissions from that use. As is common with these uses, it's proposed to cease after 30 years. I appreciate that this is a really difficult application site to locate, so I've put lots and lots of plans in here to try and help members identify where it is. Excuse my appalling graphics. That's the application site where I've dumped a little red square onto it. And there where the star is the delivery point that I identified before, where it adjoins Brookfield Lane. It's a highly rural location, as you can see, lots of established field boundaries. And there are no other designations on the site beyond the green belt, which washes across it. So here's another plan which shows the wider context of the site. So there's the little red line there and the access tracks, a bit clearer on that plan. It sits to the east of Stevenage, with the area for the panels approximately 1 kilometre from the settlement boundary. The village of Bennington sits about 1.9 kilometres to the east of the site, over that. And then off the map, we've got Aston to the south, which is about 1.4 kilometres, and Walken, again, about 1.4 kilometres, but to the north. There's a few slides of context here to show you what's around the site. So this shows the public rights of way that run around the site. They're all located more than 200 metres away from the site of the solar panels. And as you saw in the previous plans, there are extensive field boundaries already in place in between those public footpaths and the application site. So this shows the heritage assets around the site. The nearest one is here. This is grade 2 listed Lord's Farmhouse. It's about 500 kilometres away from the site. There are a number of modern buildings around that listed building, and therefore it's completely screened from the application site even before the vegetation and the field boundaries. It's been concluded there's no heritage impact from the proposed panels. This is a layout plan. So that's the site as you've seen. This is it close up. There are 4 rows of solar panels. Each row has 120 panels in it. The area of the panels itself, so just around there, measures 70 metres by 30 metres, so it's modest. And then here there's a pole which holds some of the overhead wires, and it is proposed to put a small concrete slab there with a green electrical box which contains a couple of inverters which will take the electricity into the national grid. There's some imagery of how the panels will look. That's a side view of the panels. As you can see, that's the 4 rows there. The height of the panels is standard. Members will be familiar. Approximately 2.3 metres at the highest end, approximately 0.7 at that end, which is quite standard. This shows the proposed landscaping plan, which just adds really to the existing boundaries already on the site. Oh, excuse me. There's a proposed native hedgerow to the north and the west boundaries of the parcel, so that's there and there. And it's also proposed to overseed the site with conservation grassland with a wildflower mix in it. The result of that is there'll be a 55.49% biodiversity net gain from the proposal. A construction traffic management plan has been agreed by Hertfordshire County Council. However, they have requested that a condition be imposed to require one with some more details in, but the information that's submitted has resulted in them being happy that it's feasible. The access through the site, as I showed before, runs along agricultural tracks that are already on the site. Unloading will happen on some hard standing here, and I've got a further plan to show that in a bit more detail, and they'll be delivered at the installation site here. It's estimated there'll be a maximum of 21 journeys to deliver the panels to the site here, which is just off the road. I think, having discussed it with the applicants, I think in reality it will be less, but it's been assessed on the basis of a maximum of 21 journeys. Here's the magnified version of the drop-off point. So here's Brookfield Lane here, and there's this hard standing here with some equestrian use, and it's proposed to drop off here and turn in this area, and then the site is accessed up here to the gate. It's been confirmed that no HGVs will be used in the delivery of the panels to the site, and that will be secured in the construction plan. I was asked about what a Luton van looks like, so I thought I would pop a photograph there. It's essentially the same as a horse box, so it's no different to the vehicles which would be using this site anyway, which is forms part of the county council's being content with the application. So here's some views of the site. So site here, if you're I am standing here in these photographs. So this one here looks off towards the west boundary of the site. You can see the tree coverage to the west there. View 2 here is looking off to the north of the site. Again, you can see the tree coverage. And then looking off to the west, again, there's boundaries there, but there's also proposed additional planting on these 2 boundaries as well. So the view we have here is from the public right-of-way number 14, which is just over here, circled. So that's over to the west of the site. As you can see, there's the site of the panels is not visible. It's behind the tree boundary. Here's the view from the north here. Again, you can't see the panels from here. It's visible. They're invisible, and this is again from public right-of-way. Okay, so this is the view from the junction of Bennington Road and Walkham Road, which is just up here to the east of the site. Again, you can't see the location of the panels. It's completely obscured by existing vegetation. And then this is a view from the public right-of-way, Bennington 002. It's kind of over here in the distance, and sorry, that's that view there, off to the south. And it can't, the site cannot be seen from that view either. There was a landscape and visual impact assessment with the application, which found all of this, and our landscape officers have assessed that and agree with the findings of that. This is a photograph from the entrance to the site, so just down by where the delivery point was. These are you can see here in the distance, the vines which are being grown. That's these here. The site is kind of behind here-ish, and it's not visible at all because of the existing planting. And then this is a view standing in this field. So you can see there the vines there just to my right. So I'm kind of standing here and here. And again, you can see the field where the solar panels is proposed can't be seen. And actually that's the pole that the panels will feed into. See the wires. So the recommendation is that planning permission is granted subject to conditions. It was concluded in the officer's assessment as per the report that there was a case for very special circumstances, including the NPPF significant weights, which is afforded to renewables, that outweighs any harm by reason of inappropriateness and any other harm which hasn't been found. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I would like to invite a speaker. Speaking for the development, we have Dale Radford, planning agent. You have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm good to go. Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. I'm here this evening to strongly support your officer's recommendation to approve this application for 480 photovoltaic panels at land to the northeast of Aston End, owned by my client. This proposal responds directly to the priorities set by both the council and the government. The council has declared a climate emergency, and national planning policy strongly encourages renewable energy generation to tackle climate change and strengthen energy security, an issue that is increasingly pressing in light of current global events. The installation site, approximately 2,100 square metres, just 70 by 30 metres, occupies only 0.67% of the applicant's landholding. It therefore represents a very small footprint relative to the wider estate. Yet it will generate around 240,000 kilowatt hours annually, meeting the energy needs of maintaining the farm and winemaking operations both now and into the future. Crucially, the development demonstrates very special circumstances in the Greenbelt, as highlighted in your officer's comprehensive report. The panels are carefully sited to minimise visual impact while supporting a thriving local business that provides meaningful employment for residents in the area. By enabling the business to operate sustainably and grow, this development safeguards local jobs and strengthens the rural economy, ensuring the land continues to be actively managed with clear plans to expand current grape production. The proposal will also deliver additional environmental benefits through new landscaping and planting around the installation. These measures will soften views of the panels over time and enhance the rural character of the site. Importantly, the scheme also delivers a significant biodiversity net gain, creating enhanced habitat and strengthening the ecological value across the site. The land already forms part of a formal countryside stewardship scheme, reflecting the applicant's long-standing commitment to responsible land management and environmental stewardship. This proposal therefore builds upon existing environmental initiatives, allowing the business to contribute positively to the community, the local economy and the natural environment without compromising the openness or character of the Greenbelt. In short, this is a well-considered, proportionate and sustainable development. The officer's report confirms that very special circumstances exist to justify this proposal in the Greenbelt. It supports local employment, promotes renewable energy, delivers biodiversity enhancement and responds directly to both the climate emergency and the need for greater energy security. I respectfully urge you tonight to endorse the officer's recommendation and approve this application, allowing my client to continue their vital contribution to the local economy, the local community, and a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you. So, members, does anyone have? Yes. We have questions already. Councillor Dunlop.
Might be a bit strange. I'm looking at that red line and the 4 green bars where you've got solar panels in it. And I'm wondering, why did you not fit another bar in there?
Another row.
Another row? Because it looks to me like you've space for another one. You've put all the infrastructure in.
In short, we have maxed out the capacity of what our connection can achieve just there.
Okay, thank you.
I was Councillor Buckmaster first and then Councillor Stoll.
Thank you, Chair. I'm interested in the grassland that you said you're going to be sowing that contains the wildflowers, sorry. Now, I thought that this type of grassland actually needed mowing yearly. If you're not going to have animals on it to crop it, as in sheep, it will need mowing yearly to encourage the wildflowers to keep producing seeds. Otherwise, they will die out. Is that part of the plan? Because otherwise you lose your biodiversity net gain.
Yes, that is targeted to me. Yeah, yes, it will be. So, Mark, the applicant, as I alluded to, already manages the land through a countryside stewardship scheme, which is registered with government. So there is already an element of management taking place on that land. But once the wildflower and that has been sown, it will be maintained for the duration of the solar lifespan.
Yvonne.
Thank you. It's mainly the power is mainly for the existing business. What percentage would be available to go into the grid, please?
So the solar energy that is produced will go directly straight back into the grid, first of all. So in theory, all of it will go back to the grid. The client will then have the ability to use that energy. But it could be that all of it is produced and used by the local community, and 240,000 kilowatt hours powers roughly 80 dwellings a year. I hope that answers that question.
Can I get some confirmation on that actually? Just so it's producing these kilowatt hours, they're going into the grid, and then the client is using kilowatt hours from the grid. Is the money he gets from it going into the grid offsetting the cost from buying it from the grid? Is that how it's working, or is there some sort of other arrangement? Yes. Yeah, come and sit up there, because you were originally, if that's all right with Mark.
Yes.
Yeah,
My name's Mark Schaefer. Yes,
Yes.
I'm representing the owner.
Yes.
The answer is, at the moment, we won't be using any of the electricity on site because it's entirely rural.
Mhm.
The intention is to offset our CO2 production from the farm.
Right.
So I did a calculation in the application which shows the equivalent energy use of managing. We have nearly 80 acres there.
Mhm.
So we are managing that with part of the countryside stewardship, which requires mowing and various other activities on site all year round. So initially, the energy will simply go into the grid, and that will simply be contributing to the renewable energy production of the grid. So it will just be a CO2 reduction. So
Yeah.
we won't actually use any electricity on site to start with. I mean, I'm hoping that we could probably switch to some electrical powered vehicles or something in the longer term, or or if we start processing the grapes on site, we'll be using electricity there. But just initially, it's just a straightforward CO2 reduction. So it will, I hope that when we get to sell our wine,
Yeah.
we can put
Yeah.
on the bottle that it's carbon neutral
Yeah, thank you. That's
or equivalent or even carbon negative.
all right, members. Any more questions? Martin.
Yeah, it's I suppose out of curiosity, how many replacements of the solar panels do you expect over the 30-year period? Are they all going to be replaced, or some of them?
I mean, they can always get damaged because they are essentially glass, but they do suffer some degradation as the years go by. So there's always possibility of a sort of maybe changing one or two if they're underperforming. But no, there's no plan. They should last 25, 30 years. I mean, the technology has moved on enormously.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions. Thank you. So there are no other speakers, so members, let's debate it then. Anyone want to start off? I think well, it's an interesting one. We've noted that it's in the green belt, so there you know we're balancing off the inappropriate. What's it inappropriate? I always get that word.
Yeah, it's inappropriate developments in the green belt.
Inappropriate development in the green belt, so it has a much higher hurdle to pass, and then we have to debate whether it jumps those hurdles. Councillor Estop, then Councillor Stowe.
Thank you, Chair. I will support the recommendation from the officer, but mainly because the NPPF says renewable energy carries extra weight, given, and we all understand renewable energy. I just feel again that we're lacking.
Councillor Estop, just a technical point there, because we're starting the debate. You could say you're minded to support it. It sounds like you've predetermined yourself before we've had a debate.
Okay. That's right. So I'll take that back, and I will listen to the debate that we have.
Yes.
And I might change because the I sense that there's a lack of a really sound policy and guidance framework for all of the renewable energy infrastructure that we are faced with, and which will increase. And so in this particular case, the green belt policy does stand out because it contradicts that policy. It's inappropriate, and in the paragraph that lists very special circumstances, looking at that a couple of times, none of them count. So we are facing green belt policy contradiction, which is quite serious. And the other policies that are referred to in the report, none of them apply. DPS2 doesn't allow for solar farms, nor does DPS4. Greenbelt does not. That the GBR1 just says inappropriate development. So we don't have a good policy context for this except Greenbelt, and so that does make it very difficult.
Councillor Stowe.
Yeah, I'm afraid my concerns are also on the green belt issue, because I think it is inappropriate. I think some of the special circumstances that have been listed on this by the applicant, I think are not realistic, to be honest. I mean, you've got one here, it says energy security for local rural businesses. No, we can't do that. We can't guarantee that because it goes into the grid. So it's not local businesses that draw it out. It's anybody that is on the local grid. I mean, so I think the green belt issue is very important. And I think the officers have acknowledged that in their report, but I don't think the special circumstances are strong enough to actually consider it viable.
And if I don't, you're very much on your own over there. So I'm gonna rely on my.
I like to go on there. It's good.
I'm going to rely on my vice chair to sort of spot you with your hand up, because anyone from this side, Ian.
Yeah, I'm going to say very much the same as Councillor Stowe, that the very special circumstances are actually listed by the applicant, not by our officers. And I just want to know from our officers if they're in agreement with these very special circumstances, because they have ultimate weight against the inappropriate nature of being against GBR1. Thank you.
Yes, we are. When officers look at very special circumstances, we would always hope that the applicant would make the case, which they have in this instance, and then we assess and give weight to those circumstances, giving due regard to the NPPF in particular. The National Planning Policy Framework does require us to give significant weight to the provision of renewables, and it does make reference to the fact that although renewables will often be inappropriate in the green belt, there may very well be very special circumstances. So it acknowledges that there may be this disconnect between where solar goes and the fact that it may be washed over by green belt, but kind of gives gives planners that weight to help them, to help them make that assessment. So yes, we are in agreement with that. We do have a local policy as well. I think it's CC3, which gives us some criteria to assess the appropriateness of solar panels, of renewable energy, not necessarily in the green belt, but also we've applied that assessment criteria along with the significant weight in the green belt, and then weighed that alongside the very special circumstances. And in this case, yes, we've concluded that due to the lack of harm, the NPPF significant weight and the circumstances listed, we are satisfied that we would be in favour of this application. Yeah.
Councillor Buckmaster.
Thank you. Can I see the slide that's got the public footpaths on it, please? Now, could you now show me what is going to be the construction route?
Okay. Actually, let me just see if that's overlaid.
Yeah, that's what I'd
On
like it.
construction
Yeah,
route.
if you could overlay it would help.
Yeah, I know. So what I would say is within the construction management plan, there was quite a lot of toing and froing about where there's some overlap. So I know absolutely that is public footpath. Am I right? The public footpath goes down that way, looking over there. Yeah, along the river there. So that bit, there is a conflict. The construction management plan, which is available on our website, all the information is there, the draft one, contains provisions for banks people to be in place when vehicles are moving along those tracks at the points where there are conflict with horses or people. I mean, I think it's worth noting that they are already agricultural tracks and the panels will be moved by agricultural vehicles. So although there will be some more tractors essentially going down that track, it's not unusual for that to happen. But there is provision for banks people to be there when that's happening to make sure there's no conflict between pedestrians and vehicles. Thank you.
John.
I have one that's not about Greenbelt necessarily, it's about the agricultural land. The land is stated as grade 3, but there's no evidence as whether it's 3A or 3B, and that makes quite a difference in it. And if it's 3A, then the policy says development should avoid best and most versatile land where possible. I just don't know which one it is.
I think it's usually about 20 hectares that would kick in that concern.
Yeah, so sometimes we do receive agricultural land surveys with these types of applications, and they do establish what grade, whether it's 3A or 3B. In this case, that didn't come in, but there is what is now pretty much established appeal case law, that if the loss of agricultural land is considered significant if it's for a site greater than 20 hectares. This site is 0.21 hectares, so there's no, it's not even sort of a close assessment in that regard. And appeal decisions have often taken the opinion that it is a temporary loss. So in combination with the fact this is a 30-year loss, and it is a fraction of the size that would be considered significant, that wasn't deemed to be objectionable in this case. It might be different in other applications, but just because of the sizes, in this case, it's not.
Yvonne, and then
may we see the landscape plan, please? I wanted to make a sort of critical comment about this, really. You've got the existing shelter belt or the existing tree line on the left. The proposed boundaries, the hedge planting and the trees are so weedy. And they're in straight lines. It's, you know, it's a bit like making a back garden out of some countryside. I've read the report which says that the land is quite strongly undulating. So it would seem to me that a good way to landscape that would be to have curvy linear lines and more randomly positioned trees and tree clumps. So it just seems rather under considered as screening.
There was some to and fro with the landscape officer. Could you, bring that into it?
So initially, there was this was just sort of part screening it, and the landscape officer, in assessing the views from the site, which are minimal. This site is barely visible, sort of from outside of the immediate locality. The landscape officer considered that actually to plant the whole way across was much more in keeping with the pattern of the field boundaries in the locality. Just go back to, so you can see this kind of very uniform field boundaries already. So that, as Councillor Watson said, there was a bit of toing and froing with their landscape officer anyway, and the applicant actually changed their landscape provision at the request of our landscape colleagues.
Tony,
have you got any transport plan for how the lorries or vehicles are going to get from the site to the main road? Because just up the road you've got a road called Short Lane, which is one track. Further up the road you've got Long Lane, which is single track. And as you go out into Gresley Road, the only road you can use is a single track. So can you tell me whether there's a plan for the routes?
There is a plan for that. I haven't put it on the slides because it's part. I haven't got it on the slideshow. It's available on the website. The draft construction and traffic management plan is on the council's website as one of the published documents. Hertfordshire County Council Highways have looked at that and are content with it. They've raised no objection to that. However, the document is conditioned anyway, so it would still be subject to agreement.
Yet again, we come to this meeting, we want information that should be supplied, and we're lacking information again. It really must get it better.
Apologies, I didn't put it in the slideshow, Chair.
are we forming our respective conclusions? So I'm quite willing to go for a proposal for this. Do you want to?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, I'm happy to propose to accept the recommendation for permission to be granted, subject to the condition.
That's been proposed. Do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Burt, thank you. All right, all those in favour? And against? And any abstentions? One. Right. planning permission is granted. On, I better say, on application 325-0950/FUL. Moving on to 5B, before us we have application 3/25/0763-FUL, and I'll just pause a moment to let the officer. Thank you. So this is change of use of land from blocked paved pedestrian area to provide 2 police vehicle car parking spaces marked with studs and a sign by way of Hertfordshire County Council traffic regulation order at blocked paved area of Tudor Square, Ware, Hertfordshire. And I'd like to invite Daniel Clark to present the application.
Thank you, Chair. Just before I present, we have had a late representation from Ware Town Council. They've commented and resolved to support the proposed development subject to concerns. Apologies. We've had a late representation from Ware Town Council who have resolved to support the application subject to the consideration of concerns regarding pedestrian safety, the availability of space for events, and the potential for the proposals to encourage additional parking in the square. So the application is for the change of use of the land from a block paved pedestrian area to provide 2 police parking spaces with marked studs and a sign. The application site is located in the town centre of Ware in Tudor Square, just accessed off of the High Street and West Street, as you can see in the diagram here. And the existing police station is marked with a blue dot at the back of Tudor Square there. The application site is in red. The site is in the Ware Conservation Area and within the plan area for the adopted Ware neighbourhood plan. Here's the proposed site layout plan. You can see the 2 parking spaces in the square and the indicative layout here in the photos below. The parking spaces will be marked by metal studs in the ground, as you can see here, and the sign will be as shown in the images here, in the indicative image above. Tudor Square is a market square, so you can see some views here of the parking space location taken by officers and the market over here. Some views looking across the market and the square in these photos here. Some views looking up from West Street, some views looking down from the parking spaces, and some views over the other side of the square and the market. So officers are recommending to grant planning permission. Thank you.
Right. Is anyone familiar with Tudor Square at all? So, and has anyone seen the police vehicles parking there anyway? But anyway, does anybody want to? This is summarize it. This is a change of use of the area with some studs. Councillor, do we have somebody who wants to?
Yes, Chairman, if you'll indulge me.
No, I'm just a second. I'm just I'll check it. It's not your ward.
It isn't, but it was.
No, I'm not going to allow that, I'm afraid. Sorry. Does anyone else want to? Councillor Dunlop and then Councillor Devonshire.
Thank you. The late representation from Ware Town Council, I didn't catch all the conditions or the stipulations that they were saying that they were willing to support it on, but can you confirm that their issues have been addressed?
Thank you. Yes, the late representation, we consider that the issues have been addressed in the report, and they relate to various considerations that have been listed in the committee report.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is am I right? This is to partly to facilitate this new permanent traffic regulation order that Hertfordshire County Council will be putting in place should the permission be granted.
That's correct. There is a permanent traffic regulation order currently. It's being revised by the County Council's Highway Authority, and that is proposed to include the 2 parking spaces formally within the permanent traffic regulation order.
Martin.
So I'm assuming that the police have the right to park there any time, even whatever event is on. Is that the case?
Yes, the council can't take enforcement against the police using the space to park. It's the application just for the formalisation, the change of use of the land to be specific parking spaces. But no, we wouldn't be able to stop them, the police cars parking there if they needed to be there in an event of a crime.
Okay.
Councillor Devonshire, and then Councillor Eston.
Thank you, Chair. I remember when the circular block paving was put in, I think it was 2014, and it cost a huge amount of public money. I think it was something of the order of £200,000. So my question is that patterned circular block paving going to be affected anyway or removed? That's my first fear. And my second fear is, will it be affected? I think similar to what other councillors have said, is it going to affect the events? The whole point of doing that block paving was to have events in that square. Is it going to mean you can't get events in or not as big events? Thank you.
Of course. So the initial proposal was for line paintings, which was the conservation team raised an objection to that because it wasn't in the conforming pattern with the circular form of the square, the square painting. So the circular metal studs were considered by the conservation urban design team to be a more sensitive approach, being low level additions you can see here, more in a style that would reflect the circular square. The form of the studs is minimal height, and it's considered that won't impact the paving of the square, which, as you're right, is relatively new. And in regards to the second point, to move over here, there will be some loss of space in the square in terms of its use of the land. So being the formal change of use, there will be some loss of space for market, but officers consider this to be relatively minimal space. You can see the rough area of the parking space here and the markets happening here. We don't consider there to be a loss of full market function, and we consider that the markets could take place in their full capacity.
My understanding from the report was that they wouldn't be using the parking at the market time, though. Is that right?
That's correct. So the applicant has agreed to a condition to limit the times when the space can be used outside of market hours. But officers did not consider this condition appropriate at the time of writing because the police are able to park there without permission.
But they need a good reason to park without permission, theoretically.
Of course, yeah, we would expect that to happen in when they are needed to be there.
Right, I've lost track. Who Councillor Eston?
I think this is totally intrusive. It's putting 2 vehicles in a pedestrian area. The description says block paved pedestrian area. So, the use is pedestrians only in the middle of a town centre. The block paving refers to the fact, as Councillor Devonshire said, it was designed. This is a properly thought out bit of hard landscape design for pedestrians only and market use. Designed with these circles, the cars will be over the edge of a circle, so this does disrupt that. It is interfering with that safe space effectively. And the significance of Tudor Square is quite strong because where is so linear, it's mainly street, that this has been carefully carved out as a pedestrians marketplace. It is like it's a place of arrival when you're in Ware. You arrive into this space from the narrow streets, you look across to St Mary's, the cars are going to be the first thing that you see when you come into there. I think in some ways it's going to detract from the setting of St Mary's and its landscape. So it worries me actually. I think it does detract from what's going on, even though it's, you know, we might say it's only a small area, but I think it is interfering with that pedestrian use. And when the cars take off for an emergency, sirens go off. You know, that's pretty awful when you're sitting in a quiet place and the siren goes off. Then they have to cross over pedestrian pathways to get to the road. Doesn't feel very safe to me when they're in a hurry. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. After that investment, you know, there's a vehicle entrance there. The vehicle kind of run-in is so that vehicles can come and set up market stalls. There might be a bit of servicing for shops. The vehicles come and go via that. That run-in doesn't mean that you can take vehicles in and park them there. It's part of the cleverness of the scheme. So it may be the parking spaces, the cars, when they're parked there, they may interfere with a van taking some stuff in for the market. That hasn't been clear from the pictures we've seen. So yes, I feel very uncomfortable about it.
Councillor Burt.
I'm just wondering, so talking about the cars being there, sort of how, in what capacity will the police be there? So are they going there and patrolling sort of, or are they just coming for a particular incident, shall I say? Or are they going to be there because they're patrolling Ware for several hours of the day? Or I'm really sorry that I don't know this. I should know it. Is there a police station nearby that they're parking for?
Yes.
Right, okay, I apologise for not knowing that, because I used to live in Ware, but I didn't have any cause to see the police, thankfully.
My understanding is that
They're using it as car parking for the police
their
station.
argument is it improves operational efficiency.
Right, so they can just go from the police station to go.
That's
right. So where are they parking at the moment then?
Sometimes in Tudor Square.
Right, okay. Okay, so they just, right, thank you.
Point of order. I appreciate I'm not a member of this committee and I'm no longer the local member, but I was a county councillor for 16 years with a great interest in Ware, and I could inform a lot of what's going on.
I'll ask the committee. I propose, if I'm not going to, shouldn't really, but I propose that we allow David Andrews to add a bit of context. Does someone second? Seconded by Councillor Thomas. All those in favour? And against? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
But please be brief.
I will be very brief. We struggled as a county councillor with my colleague Jonathan Kay with responsibilities for the north and the south of the town. We struggled for many years to maintain a police presence in Ware, because unusually amongst the towns in Ware, for periods it didn't have one. Those who know Ware will understand that where the previous police presence was is what is now the Dolphin surgery, which we approved here 4 or 5 years ago. And since then there've been nomads. They did once upon a time pitch their tent in an office that the Community Volunteer Service leased to them in Tudor Square, where they currently are. And that was a facility basically for them to be able to use the loo, charge their batteries, get a cup of tea, and then off patrol from there. But that arrangement has become more permanent, more reliable, but we still needed and still appreciate a permanent police presence in Ware, as you will understand, the committee will understand. What has happened in the last several years is that they've had to park in the high street, in Ware Priory, wherever they could find a space. And of course, they were subject to the same restrictions as ordinary motorists. So if they parked there for 1 hour, no return within 2 hours, it gave them a major issue. You'd have a police officer driving around in a car for 20 minutes, trying to find somewhere to park. And if you could conjure the vision, a police officer having to dash out of that office and run 250 yards in full kit to jump into a car to go out and sort some problem in Ware. Not an edifying sight, I can assure you. So unofficially, over a period of time, they have arrived at a situation where they've been using Tudor Square. To think that Tudor Square is not used by other vehicles is a big mistake. If you go there at any time of day, you will find other vehicles using it quite incorrectly, quite illegally, and obviously vehicles delivering to the businesses, large lorries, 17, 18-ton rigids, and indeed the dust cart. So the surface is perfectly capable of taking that sort of traffic. And in fact, West Street is a thoroughfare. There are vehicles on it all day, every day, going about their lawful occasions. So from the point of view, heartfelt plea, this is very much needed, would be very much appreciated.
I think we're moving into debate
constabulary
rather than-
will thank you.
Yeah. Right. That was informative. Some of it was a bit debating, but it was very useful. Members, any Councillor Stowe.
All I was going to say, the concerns expressed that the police would fly off with sirens firing and everything else, and it'd be dangerous to pedestrians. No, it wouldn't happen that way, because the police have to be mindful of what's around them, and they can't go and drive into people just to get out to do a call. So there's no question of that ever happening, and I think we should be clear about it.
Yeah, I feel that we're ready to make a proposal. Ian, can you put your microphone on?
I'm happy to propose this as an approval.
And a second, Ruth. All those in favour? I'm going to abstain. And against? And abstentions? I'm abstaining from this. Oh yes. Permission granted for 3/2763/0763/FUL. Fine. Just wrapping up now, if I can find my order. There is no part 2 business, so we don't need to exclude the press and public. And is there any urgent? There is no urgent business, so that concludes the meeting. Councillor Stowe.
Just before we conclude the meeting, in the past, we've always had a record of appeals, results of appeals, and the percentage of appeals that we've been successful on. I'd like to see that back on the agenda. It's very useful information, and it's been stopped in recent times, and I think it's a sad loss.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that, but perhaps we can Martin.
Yes, it has been removed probably for about a year, actually, Councillor Stowe, and there was a reason for that with a resource from a resource point of view. And the reason was that the former manager, Paul Burt, used to pull that together and is no longer with us. So we're finding our feet still with that, but it's been on our list with Councillor Glover Ward to think about how we present that at committee. We could obviously look at going back to how we used to do it with lists and lots of things for members to read, or we can look at other things like a dashboard type presentation for, i.e. less information for members to read, very mindful that sometimes agenda packs are quite full. So it's on our list of things just to bring back to committee. Yeah, so it will happen, but perhaps this is now the prompt just to try and get on with that.
But can I just add, I mean, we do have to, there are certain, what do you call it, KPIs, if you like, that have to be presented to the government anyway. So there are some statistics that will be in public and pulled together. So at least every year we could have.
Yes, those key KPIs are normally set out in the annual monitoring report, which is a statutory thing that we have to do. So it's there. We can discuss that internally as to what other information we might want to present to members just to keep them informed of those key performance indicators.
So if you're happy, I can.
Can I come back on it? The point being is when we had it in the past, we had this a table, if you like, as well, about how many of the appeals we were rightly, in our first opinion, whether it be delegated powers or to committee. And that's quite useful to have. And in actual fact, it's good from the planning department's point of view to say what they're doing and how successful that is. And that's good. And we should know that sort of stuff. And it's also, I think, the long version where we actually see the report on the men. I know we get it normally, but only the ward councillors get that report. And I think it's nice if we can just generally see that. As you know, people don't read it. I've always read it, every single bit of it, and I think it's important.
Through you, Chair, but yes, happy to take that away. I think it's how we present it and what information we provide. I think we can do it in a better way than what we've done previously, but I'm happy to take that away as an action, Chair.
Yeah, that would be noted. Thank you, Councillor Stowe. Right, I'm going to end the meeting now at 8:02. Thank you.